Here for this third time, I am ready to come to you, and I will not be a burden to you. For I do not seek what is yours, but you. For children are not responsible to save up for their parents, but parents for their children. That was 2 Corinthians 12:14. One more. Do not hold back discipline from the child. Although you strike him with the rod, he will not die. Proverbs 23:13. Let us pray. Dear Father God, who art in heaven and in my heart, thank you for another blessing, another day, another opportunity. Thank you for life, health, and strength. I come to you faithfully, truthfully, genuinely, honestly, openly. Deliver me, bless me, forgive me, lead me, guide me, direct me. Continue to show mercy. Continue to show your undying hand, your unchanging hand, and your Son, Jesus, Yahshua. Amen. Welcome to the Vibe, blessed ones. Episode 20. It's been a long time coming. There's a reason why some of my episodes are released simultaneously. There's a reason why there's been a gap. There's been like some days, maybe weeks in between. Because when you're transitioning into a new home, when you're transitioning down a new path, sometimes you might need to give yourself some time to meditate and reflect on the things that you accomplished thus far. This is the 20th episode. You are in the Blair Podcast. This is, again, your Cancer Care Bear. No hair, don't care, all faith, no fear. So just looking back these past couple months, I want to thank everyone who has been listening, those who had took the time to at least click and, participate, ask the questions, make suggestions, and requests and whatnot. So back in November, I had released my first episode of In the Blair Podcast. And during that time, I was still hosting my other podcast, Too Idle for a Title, which was on Spotify, distributed by Anchor. And like I mentioned, after maybe back in December, the beginning of January actually, that podcast was no more. But as I transitioned from exclusively from SoundCloud onto all streaming platforms like Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and et cetera, et cetera, I have been, going through some things personally in my personal life. And like in the beginning, starting off this episode, I gave y'all 2 scriptures, and those particular scriptures were scriptures for those of you who have children, or want children, or or parents, mainly for parents or whatnot. Because I was going to address the whole Kirk Franklin and his son Kerrion's situation, but nobody asked me for that. I have my own reservations, own opinions on that situation, but it's very sensitive and very personal. So I'm not even going to get into it, because at the end of the day, that's father and son. People can have their opinions and express how they feel and talk about how, disrespectful, how hypocritical this whole thing is, with Kirk Franklin being, a Christian or gospel singer, blase, blase. But we got to remember this one thing, and this is all I'm going to say about that. Their family, and not just family, but their father and son. And me being a father, having a son, there's moments where my son gets on my nerves, and sometimes I want to, fight him, curse him out. He's 4 or whatever, but I have some restraint. Nobody's perfect. We're all human, whatever, all that stuff. However, that's still my son. And no matter what, it is my responsibility and duty to make sure that I show him the right path. And as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to continue to do that. Even when he's grown, have kids, have grandkids, it's still my duty to show him the right path, even if he does not follow it. Because as a father, there's certain responsibilities that we have. There's certain duties, that accountability we have to take. And despite the inside issues that I may have with my own son or my kids, children, we can always rekindle and come back. You know what I'm saying? So I try to be very careful with how I express my opinions and views. Like I mentioned on the previous podcast, like I am not really trying to gossip and be, this entertainment weekly type thing. Though sometimes I may have to, just do it, make a point. But all I'm saying is, I'm just going to pray for that Franklin family. I did see the video. I listened to it a couple times. And just starting this podcast, I was really had intentions on, discussing it. But see, I had to step back, say my prayers, Lord, deliver me from anything that will hinder me from you. So, those of you who are not familiar with the God that I serve, Yahweh, and when I ask, to be delivered and not hindered, it's just saying that, hey, change me. Take me away from anything that's going to make it difficult for me to be a man of God, a man of faith. Because I can't stress it enough. These last couple months, couple weeks, couple days, it's really been challenging. Like I said, I've been transitioning to a new home, extended families and everything, just a new journey. So I want to keep things on a positive note and keep things very insightful, because everybody has an opinion. we all think, but it's about being wise. You know, so that's pretty much all I have on that. But on another note, something I do want to discuss briefly is the Grammys that happened this past weekend. I believe it was this past weekend. And it's just sometimes dawned on me where I'd be like, man, you know how many of these Grammys they have every year, but they still happen to. And like I said again, I'm not necessarily in the entertainment industry right now, so I don't know how that works, but I do want to congratulate Meg Thee Stallion for winning Best Rap Song, Rap Performance, New Artist. Despite, what the naysayers say. I'm not going to say that she doesn't deserve it. I do feel like, as far as rap performance, well, I'm not even going to say rap performance, but new artists, I guess she's fairly new, technically, but, she's been out for a while. And that's one of the things I probably dislike, and, Kanye West, of course, another late bloom, won Best Contemporary Christian Music Album. And I will say that I believe that the Grammys is finally somewhat getting it right. Only because I think they're really trying to allow everyone to, get an award in like every single genre, subgenre, or whatnot. And that's cool. I think there are some, of course there's some that are not going to be televised, but, when it says Contemporary Christian Music Album, I'm just like, man, what is that? And, definitely congrats to one of my favorite rappers. He had Nas for King's Disease for Best Rap Album, Hip Hop Album. And it's his first Grammy after being in the game for 20 plus years. But I remember he had this line on Hip Hop Is Dead. And he was like, when you're, what do you say? When you're 3 years in the game, we can have a conversation. 6 years in the game, I invite you on vacation. 10 years in the game, after I enjoyed my fame, only then I let you pick my brain. And that's a bar there, because he was pretty much, because this was like Hip Hop Is Dead came out like, I forgot what year it came out, but he was just insinuating that, you can't talk to me, I'm of a certain status, so you can, I can talk to you, when you just kind of like get your foot in the door a little bit. And then, when you're like, once you start getting those accolades and whatnot, we can really hang out, chill, kick it, you're one of my peers. And then when you kind of do have the career like I have, we can, now you can kind of start questioning me, what I do and all that stuff. But it was just very interesting. I was like, man, I was like, Nas, this is Nas' first Grammy, wow. And of course, hip hop, has their reservations about, the Grammy Awards and stuff. But, there's other artists that I looked up that didn't have one, Pac, Snoop, DMX, Bob Marley, surprisingly Kid Rock don't have one. Run DMC, I believe, don't have one. Diana Ross, which is definitely surprising. Before my time, but wow, that is just kind of like what's going on. But I do want to just point that out. And being that this is my 20th episode, this is my 10th, probably 11th episode monetized. So I want to take this time to address those of you who are familiar and listen to the show. You know, 20 episodes in, after countless redos, after different brands, segments, all that stuff, I want to just say I am appreciative. And though I'm not, on the level of Brilliant Idiots, on a level of Rap Radar or Drink Champs and, Joe Rogan, So Shameless, as I always mention, but I do want to pay my respects to those podcasts, because those are the ones who, definitely, those are the ones who I definitely look and say, well, they have reached a certain level. And also, I must also say Joe Budden and the JPB boys, Rory, Maul, Parks, Savon, Alex, et cetera, whatever. Because these are podcasts that I listen to. Haven't much lately, but these are the podcasts, like I mentioned, the Brilliant Idiots, the Joe Budden podcast, So Shameless. Those are my top three. Drink Champs, Joe Rogan, these are podcasts that, have reached a level of, wow, you don't have to do nothing else. Like, you can just podcast and you set. I'm not there yet, but, just to reach 20 episodes, even though it took 4 months to get here, and that's pretty good. And though I had previous podcasts before, whether it was just on SoundCloud, whether it was just Anchor distributed, it feels good to say that I took the time to make it to 20 episodes. And like I said, again, some of the episodes some of the episodes where I was just winging it. And I'll be honest, my viewership is nowhere near 1,000 or, enough to even receive any income from it, but I do enjoy it. And I don't care much about that. I just want to be able to express and give the listeners something, to really, go by, to, appreciate. You know what I'm saying? I am at a point now where I am content with my content. And now that I am transitioning, like I said, I've just been working on this move. Got a special woman in my life. And the blended families with her children and my children, it's been a great experience. And I want to continue to do 20 more, and then 20 more after that, 20 more after that. Because, from this point now, I'm going to take every 10th episode to reflect and show my appreciation. Because there's a lot of people who don't make it this far. And like, again, I'm someone who's just starting out. I still feel like I'm new. I've been doing this. I've been podcasting all together for probably 2-3 years. And I'm still learning the ropes. But, I have the software. I have the drive to, continue to get better. And I'm just delivering more and more inspiration to the airwaves for anyone who enjoys to speak or have something to say, even if it's really about nothing. Because, social media, the internet had, it is an advantage of that, and that's allowing everyone to be able to have a platform. I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody should speak and should express their opinion, but at least it's there. So, Grammys, parenting, podcasting, all that stuff I covered. Now, I can close the book. And I want to give a special happy birthday to my little cousin Zemaya, little cousin Kales, and my newfound son, you can say, Jonah. Their birthday is it's this week. One today, one this weekend, one, all that stuff. So shout out to all the March babies. I think the March babies are Pisces, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries, I think. See, here's a funny thing, right? Beyonce had a song on her first debut album called, I forgot the name of it, but I use that, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, but yeah, that's how I do it. And I'm sorry. Yeah, so anyway, I'm sorry. See, this is still something where I gotta set up some feeds. But shout out to all the March babies. I got my stimulus. Yeah, I got my little bit. I was having a conversation. I was able to get some bills done, pay some bills. Splurge a little bit. Definitely investing. God. I feel as though everything that we know about the Bible, read about the Bible, is coming into fruition pretty soon. Because I notice how the world is changing. And I notice how now, this is this COVID is hitting, and people coming with the vaccine now, and hopefully things are going to be back to normal this summer. But I noticed that there, the scripture, the Holy Bible, King James Version, whatever, as far as I see, it has not been wrong yet. Despite the times where I lost faith, lost hope, went through my whole soul searching, trying to find God, trying to find myself, I realized that I was the one that was changing. The word doesn't change. The word is the one that is still here. We live in a world that's been lost the way of the Lord. And I just want to be that guiding light. And I mentioned before, I lost a brother of mine due to unreconcilable differences, apparently. And, all love and respect and blessings to him, prayers up. But I'm good, I didn't realize how hurtful and affected I'd be by it, but I'm over it, and I'm like, hey, what can I say, man? Sometimes we have to take into account that when you have a relationship, and again, I'm just winging it now. So please bear with me for those who are still here. But yeah, I'm just winging it. Right? So we have to remember, and maybe at this point, this podcast are only for believers and followers of Christ. But I do want to express this and say this. When you are trying to take the righteous path, trying to be perfect, trying to do well, you're going to fall short. And not just because, you're human and, people change their mind, but it's what, we're supposed to. Life happens where things can go. We can do everything right and things still go wrong because this world is not meant for us to hold on to. And the people in our life, thank God, there are people who are still here with me after 10, 20, 30 years, but people of this world who live for the glitz and glamour of the norm, like you can say who are driven by a different way of life. We're not meant to hold on to those people. Again, I am not perfect. I am not holier than thou. I'm trying my best to live as well as I can, to be as peaceful, respectful, happy as possible, while still being a man of faith, a man of God, where I am doing the minimum amount of I'm gonna say it's sin. I want to do the minimum amount of sin. Because like I said, regardless of whether we sin or not, we're still going to fall short of the glory. But why not do the best you can to be as upright as possible? Because I promise you, there's a better outcome. Episode 20, y'all. I made it. And I don't have any bottles to pop, but here's something that I do want to share. Shout out to Greenwood District. I'm a brand ambassador. They have a lot of Afrocentric tires, clothing. Please go on the website. I will provide. Shout out to my brother and sister, Flamingo Socks. Hey, if you like flamingos, cop it. If you like socks, cop it. If you're a weed head, cop it. I'll provide it there. Shout out to my boy, Adam. Financial Felons. Clothing. See, I'm a big advocate of self-made brands, because that's something that I always aspire to be as well. Episode 20. Those of you who have been listening, thank you. I'm going to continue to bring positive and inspiration. Questions, suggestions, requests, all wanted, needed. This is yours as well. I'm opening the doors for those listening. Opening the doors for those listening to provide questions, comments, likes, shares, whatever. I do appreciate everyone who has been tuning in, even if it's just been one person. I see my views, very small views, But please, when you look at it, if you enjoy it, share it. Or even if you don't enjoy it, if you want to, if you feel like you want to look out, share it. Spread the word. Join the vibe. Because you can't be biased and be like, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna listen to this person because I know this person. Like, if you my friend, if you know me and you support me, hey, go ahead and share it. Maybe some other people who don't know me might want to listen to it too. Some people might want to enjoy it, but I do want to thank everyone for listening. And I think that's all I have on this episode. It's just been a lot because, like I said, I've been busy. It's easy to podcast when you don't work and you don't have to really do anything. But I'm transitioning, moving, and everything like that, and just trying to. I'm still on that 9 to 5 time. You know what I'm saying? Even though I'm technically out of work, but I'm still on that schedule. Like, I gotta get a move on. I can't retire just yet. I wish I can do this for a living, but I gotta do it. And I think that's what it is. Like when I mentioned the Grammys and like big podcasts. There's those fillers there. You kind of want to provide kind of like content that's gonna be long enough to do, because again, it's not much to talk about when it's something positive. It is what it is. If you see something great, hey, you can't deny that. But if it's something like negative, like I mentioned with Kurt Franklin, his son situation, and even with certain other situations in the industry, we can talk about that forever, because we all have different opinions. It requires insight. It requires different perspectives, because we're living in a society now where, forget about the truth, this is entertainment. Like Charlamagne would say, no one cares about the truth, and the lie is more entertaining. You can't continue to constantly bring up something that's pretty much right in front of you. If I sit here and show you who I am and say, hey, I don't want to talk about certain things because it's draining. It's like, well, maybe my content will be loose, but I can talk about my family, talk about my life, talk about something positive every single episode. Even if I'm repeating myself, because again, that's going to be consistent as well. It's consistent. That's the thing where when you become a character. If you have good character and you're showing consistent good deeds, then I would say you are a good person. And not to say you shouldn't be rewarded or should be rewarded, but if you are someone who's consistently in trouble, who's always in drama, there's always going to be something. There's going to be people defending you, people offending you, people like you can always. And I don't know why, because again, that is of the world. Things that are of the world probably have a longer range as far as content is concerned, when it comes to at least podcasting, at least. But if it's positive, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's really much to go on outside of just saying I appreciate this and that. I can give my daily tips. And I'm gonna tell you this, and here's a daily tip, and then I'm gonna go because, hey, I got stuff to do. I just wanted to do this episode. This is my 20th episode, and it's been great. And I want to do more, and I'm I'm gonna continue to bring positive and uplifting content to you all. And I had to do it on here because, like I said, it's about to get busier for me. And then plus, I needed a reason to to launch and display my new album cover. Cause I do have some new music coming out, but I'm gonna bring some new podcast album cover. But tip of the day, or I'm gonna say tip of the week, tip of the month, tip of the year, tip of the life. This is a relationship tip. Full disclosure. When you're not ready for something serious, don't involve yourself in something serious. And I'm going to say it again. If you are not ready for something serious, don't involve yourself in something serious. Because I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say we, because I would be including myself, but there's a lot of men who call women bitches. There's a lot of women who call men dogs. Now, and I'm going to say this. Oftentimes, that is not known or revealed until after there is some sexual transaction or sexual intercourse displayed. Now, casual sex is fine until it's not. Because I'm going to tell you what, people, married couples, they have their problems as well. But it's internal. And that is something that is between the couple and God. Now, when you have casual sex, when you're just dealing with multiple people, that's then everybody's business. Because again, this person does not belong to you. That's not something that you cherish. So there's really no, again, it's like, what's that saying? There's no honor amongst thieves. That's kind of how casual sex is. But that's a good relationship tip. And I want y'all to think about that. So like always, blessed ones, stay safe out here. We're still in COVID. It's still a pandemic. Some people are not getting the vaccine. Some people won't. I don't think I ever will. But it's something I still have to, think about. But like always, stay prosperous, productive, and positive. Thank you. I'm out. Blair.